I guess the best place to start is to start at the beginning. So where did you fly from when you went on your trip?
Flew from London Heathrow T5, and it was to Nice. And yeah, I mean, as everybody else, I was very apprehensive. It's always one of those things that is a challenge in whichever way you want to see it, with crowds and people and queues. And so when I got there, there's never been a better time to be at the airport. The airport was empty. The new rules, or the new normal, is that you have to put on a mask when you're wherever at the airport. So having everybody with a mask, and more importantly, when you go in to drop your bags, there's a screen with an attendant behind the screen, but they also have their masks on. So I felt really safe, and there were hand sanitizers everywhere, and you were being encouraged to use them. And then you just went in and checked your bag in, and you didn't have to queue up. You just went straight through and checked in. You were off to security. We're doing 2 on each side with a social distancing in between, again, which was quite nice. So that meant very quickly I wasn't, queuing up with loads of people and everybody on top of each other, and they had hand sanitizers.
So when you got through security, what shops and cafes were open?
The shops were open. I would say 99% of them. Maybe a few restaurants weren't. But the majority of shops were open, and again, the experience was so much better. Less people around. Shops, you didn't have to sort of squeeze your way in and try and battle to get what you needed.
It sounds a lot easier, really, than when things are normal.
It was a lot easier, and probably the way we all want travel to be, but in reality, it can't be because of the amount of people. But no, it was a very pleasurable experience, and that was by far the best experience I ever had. Because normally, when you go to the BA lounge and you want to get food or whatever, you have to go and serve yourself. Actually, now you don't. Now you go and sit down at a table, you scan the barcode with your phone, and then it automatically pops up with the list of menus, and you just click on what you want. And presto, within a few minutes, you're served. But I have experienced that at the BA Lounge. So actually, COVID has some positives.
It's gone up in the world, obviously.
When you are walking around the airport, anywhere, when you're walking, you have to wear the mask. When you sit down to eat or drink in a cafe or a restaurant or whatever, or the BA Lounge, once you sit down, you're allowed to take your mask off.
And what about your bags? Obviously, other people are handling your bags. So what's the procedure for that?
Well, the procedures are that, to be honest, they don't want anybody taking hand luggage on board except for a handbag or whatever. So if you were booked to only take your hand luggage, then they will give you the option to put it through. And what they will say is that when it's coming through on the other side, all the luggage hands are sprayed, so it's all done for you.
And so what was boarding like?
Boarding was a whole new different experience, because I was flying club. When I arrived, they said, okay, Mr. Mahmoud, you can't board. You'll be the last to board, because the way they're going to be boarding is from the back forward. So they announce 5 rows, and you come from, let's say the row 30 starts. So you come from 30, 29, 28, 26, 25 in order, and you board, because what they don't want is people standing on the aisles. They just want people to get on board and sit down, and all the way to the front. So it's a new way of doing things. The difference on board the flight is that you cannot take your mask off. And to be honest, I was on the flight for an hour and a half. I didn't see any difference. I didn't have any challenges with it. So I think it was again a more civilized experience.
And what about the cabin service on board?
Yeah, cabin service, club, they serve you a meal, but it's a pre-packed meal, and they put it in front of you, and then you just serve yourself. They don't bring it as they normally do it. You just have a set which is all packed, and they put it in front of you, and you eat it, and then they take it away. In economy, there's a reverse to the normal, because in economy, they normally don't give you anything, but now they give you a pack with a face mask and sanitizer, and then they give you water for free. So again, there's a benefit with COVID, because before you would have to pay for that.
That's right, and it's kind of gone back to like the old days by the sounds of things.
Precisely.
And on board, and obviously, was there any social distancing?
But the flight was wide open. Again, there's not many people traveling, so it's easy for you to use your common sense and do what's right for you.
So when you got to Nice, what happened at Nice airport? What was different than what was usual?
There was nothing different. You had a couple of people as you were entering the passport control area, and they had their heat machines, and they would stop you, and it takes 2 seconds. They click it and they say yes or no. There was no no's, it was all yes. They were just making sure that everybody was okay, and you got through. And as normal with the immigration, there's a barrier. You put your passport through, or you go through the electronic ones, and it was quite straightforward.
So on arrival in Nice, how did you get to your hotel?
Well, I had the Kirker transfer, so I had a car picking me up, and the driver was there with a mask with my name as I came out. And the first thing he did was, when he walked me into the car, he just opened the door and he said, right in the middle there, you've got hand sanitizers and you've got an extra mask if you want it. And are you happy for me to take my mask off, or do you want me to keep my mask on? And I said, well, can you keep your mask on? And he said, yeah, fine. And actually, it was nice because there was not much traffic on the way in, and he sort of did a mini tour en route to show me, the areas, the beaches as I was going through. So it was a nice experience.
So when you got to the hotel, what safety measures did you notice first of all? I mean, was there anything different about the reception area?
Yes, there's not much minimalistic stuff. For example, before you would have brochures and magazines and all of that stuff in the public areas. There's nothing. There's just the tables, the chairs, hand sanitizers everywhere. You can see them even at check-in desk. The check-in desk has got a barrier as well, and the person behind that welcomes you does not have a mask. They do not have a mask because they're behind it. There's minimum contact in terms of things lying about. They don't want anything lying about because it means it can transmit. So to avoid all of that, everything is gone. So if you're moving around the hotel, you wear a mask. When you're seated, you take your mask off. If you're in the pool area, when you arrive, the pool attendant will bring a freshly sanitized bed for you, and when you do leave, they'll take it and respray it. So the rules are very clear, black and white. Movement with a mask, sit down without a mask. The rules all over France were very simple. When you are in an enclosed environment, whether you are in a hotel, in a shop, in a restaurant, in a bar, when you're walking around, you have a mask on. When you are not walking, if you're sitting down, you take your mask off. So you never find, in France, you never really find people standing up in a bar or anything. People are seated. You're out of the room, they will then go in, clean it, and then sanitize it with the new regulations. However, they already found that there were some new ways of people staying in a hotel. So, for example, breakfast. Some people wanted to have breakfast on their terrace in their room. They didn't want to come down, so they would deliver the breakfast and leave it outside, and then the client would take it inside. There were also people who had health conscious issues, and they said, look, can we not have the room clean for the 2 days we're there? Can you just deliver the towels and the bed sheets and we'll do them? And so instead of having the clean and not clean the room signs, which you have normally in the door, what they now have is, please don't clean our room or clean our room.
Are they still offering a turn down service, or is that stopped now?
No, they won't, because if you don't want anybody in your room, then they're not going to do any of that. But if you are, then they'll make sure that everything runs as normal. But they've got all of these new regulations where they have to spray everything they touch, so they'll make sure that's all done if they're doing your rooms up.
Is there a minibar in the room?
No, they're empty. 99% of the hotels have taken everything out of the room. If you want a drink in your room, they'll deliver it. You just have to order it.
And if you were having breakfast in the restaurant, did you have to book a time, or could you still turn up at?
No, you don't have to. They've actually simplified it. So if it's a buffet, there is an attendant behind the buffet serving. They don't want people touching things. So what they're doing is making sure there's one person touching it all, and then you're served with table service. So they would serve you. And again, you are then seated. You don't have to have the mask on, but the person serving you's got a mask on.
Did you have to book a time to use the pool?
No, because there's only a certain amount of beds out, so they've reduced the amount of beds around the pool to make sure there's social distancing between. And so there's only a few people that can use the pool, and so it's first come, first serve. So you turn up, you get a bed, and if the person then gets up and leaves and they're not coming back, then the attendant picks up the beds, sanitizes it, and then when the next person comes in, then they lay it down for you.
And did you have to wear a mask around the pool?
If you're walking around, yes. If you're walking around, but if you are getting up from your bed to go and swim, no. But if you are basically socializing and chatting to people, it's essential. Rules are in effect, and if somebody turns up for a spot check and finds clients flaunting the rules, the hotel gets fined, so they can't afford. In France, it was very simple. It was, if you want to stay in this restaurant, then you have to pre-book to get in. You have to make a booking to make sure you've got a table. And most restaurants, they weren't doing the turn around that they normally do. They might do a dinner, they might use a table twice. Actually, most of them were only doing one seating. So in reality, you might be coming at 10 o'clock, but that table is not used before 10 o'clock. It will be basically yours until then. Most restaurants, what they have is the menu. It's a disposable menu. It's a paper. So that basically you can order from that paper, and then when you finish dinner, they'll chuck it away. Or you can do what I was showing you with the phone on the BA Lounge. You just scan the barcode in the restaurant, and the menu pops up on your app, and you order what you want, and they'll deliver it to you.
So obviously beaches in France, they don't have private beaches, it's all public beaches. So how is
there are very few
distancing handled there?
There are very few private beaches. And when you go over there, there's a lot of beach bars with lounges and stuff. So you just avoid going to the public beaches. You just go to the lounge where the restaurant has sort of cut off the two ends, and where the lounges are, they're socially distanced, and you can eat and drink and sit there and then go for a swim on the beach. It's all common sense. Just don't go and do what will open you up to a situation you don't want.
And also sports equipment on the beach, that's all sanitized?
To be honest, a lot of stuff is not happening. There's only a few places where they are doing that, and in reality, I think probably better not to touch that stuff at the moment. I mean, there's a few places where they are advertising that they sanitize everything, but I would say 90% of sports clubs are all closed up because people bring their own equipment, or if you hire it at your own risk.
And the museums, are they all open?
Museums are empty. That was pleasurable. No queues, no booking. You just turn up, you go in. You can get in and get out within the hour. You didn't have to spend any time queuing up or waiting for people to move on. It was brilliant. But to be honest, they were all full. Everybody, realistically, it felt alive, but reduced numbers, and everything's socially distanced. So again, you turn up, you sit down, you eat your meal. You don't have the next table over your shoulder as you normally do when it's packed. Again, very nice experience. I mean, as one of our favorite hoteliers in Menton said, Matthew, who's actually British, but they own hotels and garden centers over there. he said to me, he said, when we were putting the new rules, he said, when we were doing it, I was trialing it. He said, it was incredible. There was nobody listening in on my conversation because the tables were far apart. And it just encouraged him to do more of that. So
right.
I think people are going back to the normal way of holidaying where not everybody was on top of each other.
No. Monaco, we know Monaco is obviously quite busy, and Monaco is one of Kirker Holiday's best sellers. So I always think about Casino Square. That's always quite crowded. So how did they handle that with the
Well, Monaco has changed their rules from when I arrived to within a week. So when I arrived, they were saying walking around, you can take your mask off but not internally, not in buildings or restaurants. And then within a week, they said even walking around, you have to put your mask on. So it felt a lot safer because everybody was wearing a mask. And I don't know if you know, but in Monaco, there's a police camera at every single angle looking at every single person, which means that if you are breaking the law, suddenly you'll be walking and then a policeman pops out of the bushes and goes, okay, you're not wearing your mask. Why are you not doing that? And they weren't enforcing it, but they were just making sure that anybody who wasn't respecting the rules suddenly knew about it. And, it's an embarrassing thing for anybody to be talked to by the police. So nobody wants that. So Monaco felt very safe. The Casino Square itself is actually changed. I don't know when was the last time you went to Monaco, but 3 years ago, they started a project where they moved away the roundabout, which had trees on it. And now Casino Square in front of the casino. I mean, the videos that you were posting that I made, people can have a look at it. Actually, Casino Square is a pleasure to be in now because there's cafes in Casino Square, not just Café de Paris. There's in the front where there was the roundabout is now a public area where people can walk around, meet up, socialize, have a chat. And all around the square, there's cars, the supercars all parked around it. So it's almost like a gallery. You go there and you can, within the center where normally you'll be dicing with your life when cars are going past, no cars now. The cars are only allowed to go around the outskirts of the square, which means the center of the square with Café de Paris is brilliant for people watching. And the gardens, which were up above, are now they're full of shops, they're full of cafeterias. It was really nice. I mean, they've spent an absolute fortune to do that, but it looks brilliant.
Nice, easy to navigate.
Yeah, Nice was the one that I was a little bit concerned about. I mean, I'm a big Tour de France fan, and the Tour de France was starting in Nice, so I wanted to go and see what was going on. And I was a bit apprehensive because I love the market there. And actually, there was nothing to be worried about because the market stalls were all, pushed apart again for social distancing. And people that go to the stall, you have to basically make sure that you're social distancing and you have to have your mask on in the market. Everybody had their mask on. And in fact, by the second week I was there, the Nice government or a town hall issued a statement saying that now anybody walking around should have their masks on. So in fact, I witnessed a couple of tourists who were stopped by the police, and if it was a tourist, they needed identification to know that you were a tourist, and they were very strict on it, because if you were a tourist, they gave you a warning and said, okay, the rules are you have to wear your mask even walking around. But if you were a local, because they would see it from your identification, they would fine you on the spot €90.
Oh wow, okay.
So I saw two couples who were locals who obviously were flaunting the rules, and they were there and they were fined on the spot. I could see them paying up there and then. And I thought, okay, well, that's brilliant. So they are enforcing it, which made, it boosted my confidence to go. Nice was brilliant. The market, walking around the market, eating, sitting in a restaurant, having a drink or eating while the market is on is a brilliant thing to do.
So I know you probably didn't use much of it, but what was the public transport like?
I didn't do the trains and the buses, but they were operational.
And when you hire a car, do you have to wear a mask inside the car, or?
No, because you've got the car. It's sanitized before you pick it up, and when you pick it up, when you drop it off, it's dropped off in a specific area so they can sanitize it for you. I mean, a lot of the hotels, if you've got a car hire and you're coming to check in, they will give you the option when you arrive. They'll say, do you want us to park your car? We will sanitize it. However, you don't want us to park your car, we'll show you where the parking is. Go park your car, and you can make sure that nobody enters your car. So everybody's pretty conscious about
it. So I guess I need to ask you, when you were on holiday already, and then they changed the rules.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find out about the rules? The rules change.
Well, I found out on the news.
So so the way you found out was on the French news. You didn't get a text from the government or from the.
No. I got an email from BA. BA sent me an email saying, just to let you know, your return, you will have to quarantine, blah blah blah, and if you need any help or you want to come back a bit earlier, let us know, and you will have to pay the difference or whatever. And I said, I'm not coming back. I had an interview the next morning with the BBC, who contacted me and another lady who was also holidaying in the south of France, and they were asking us what we thought and how it was going over there, and both of us said pretty much the same thing. We said we felt a lot safer in France than we did over here, because the rules were very black and white and everybody was basically going on with it. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that were flaunting it, but in the areas I was in, I didn't see it. So it depends where you are, and it's common sense. And that was a week into my own holiday, and I stayed on for another 2 weeks. And
that's right. I remember hearing the interview, and you both, even though you're both being interviewed separately, you both came out with similar things.
Yeah, we did. It was very easy. As I said, when the rules are black and white, it's very easy for people to know right from wrong.
So now you are self-isolating. Has anybody been checking up on you?
No one. No one.
If they did check up on you and you weren't self-isolating, would you be fined? Was it just
you would be fined? You would be fined. That is what they say. That's what the rules are. But I'm yet to hear of anybody that's been fined. And in fact, I talked to a friend of mine who arrived back from France on Saturday, and he still hasn't heard from anybody.
No.
So I don't know. I have heard of stories of people who've been checked on, but I think it's a sort of Russian roulette. you might not.
So when you did come back, what paperwork did you have to do?
Well, you have this form that you have to fill that BA give you a link to, and it's called something within a public locator form, and it's questions about where you live, where you've been staying, your home address, and where you're sitting on the plane, your seat, and all of that. And they say to you, oh, you have to show it on your phone or in paper when you land at Heathrow. They'll ask you for it. We got off the plane and you do all the things. So getting off the plane is very different to getting on the plane. Getting on the plane, you start from the back forward. Getting off, you start from the forward backwards. Again, you're not allowed to get up when the seat belt is off. You're not allowed to do anything. When they announce your seat number, you get up and you get off, and that's it. So the airline is doing their bit. But then you get off the plane, they put you on a bus. So how do you social distance on a bus?
I don't know.
So that's the first one they do. And then you get to the terminal and there are two people standing at the gate going, have you filled the form? Yeah. You don't have to even show it to them. You just say yes. So you could actually be telling lies and you could still get through. My exit from the flight into the terminal, out of the terminal, was 20 minutes.
So I guess the question to ask is, what's the best advice would you give to somebody if they were feeling nervous about travelling?
Well, there are two ways to think of it. There are two ways of thinking about it. Personally, booking with Kirker Holidays, we have to abide by the FCO advice. So if the FCO is that you have to quarantine and you have to do all of these things, we will then amend your booking, give you a refund, whatever the rules are. And those are the rules. As a tour operator, We have to do what's best for you and your client. That's what we're here for. So my advice is, if the quarantine is an issue, then stay away from countries that have a quarantine rule. I mean, we have seen a spike in bookings, last minute bookings for Italy in particular, in the past 4.5 weeks. It's been crazy. I mean, yesterday alone, we had 11 bookings for Venice. And these are all people going this weekend. They're all going this weekend because Venice is empty. It's empty. You know, you don't have to queue up for museums. You don't have to queue up for restaurants. And so we had somebody yesterday who was in Venice over the weekend, a client who came back and said it was the best advice he'd had, and that he didn't have to queue up anywhere. It was a pleasure to be in Venice. He didn't have to swim through the hordes of cruise lines, passengers, and all of that. So go to destinations that don't have a quarantine. And Italy right now is the perfect place to go. You know, it's empty. There's nobody there. The weather is still good, and there is no quarantine. And I would say book for now. If you can go away now, which is in the next week or 2 weeks, go away for a weekend now, because, you know, the likelihood of them putting a quarantine on Italy, which is very low relatively to the UK in spikes, it's not going to happen. And you can go away and have your holiday now. Sitting down and planning for next year and talking about other things, that's a way to come. Right now, my advice is, if you can go away for a weekend, go to these destinations which are empty of tourists. You will never see Venice, Florence, and Rome ever like this in the future, because when tourism is back, you're not going to have it like this.
No. And I must say, you've got some good offers at the moment. We had that email yesterday.
Yes, we've got even more. We've got even more. We've got some hotels who are offering complimentary dinners and, you know, free nights. Yeah, we've seen a surge in bookings last minute for now, and I think that would be my advice. Go where you can, because for me, you know, just going away to France for a month mentally was so rewarding. You know, I've come back here, and within the first week, I've learned not to listen to the news again because it's depressing.
Yeah. So your next trip?
Yes,
Where are you going?
I'm heading off on Monday, bright and early. I'm heading off to Venice, and I'm going to be in Venice for two nights, and I'm going to go and do some interviews with our hoteliers and show you basically what's really going on in Venice on the day. So I'll be doing some interviews on Monday and Tuesday in Venice, and then Wednesday I'm going to Florence. I'll take the train to Florence first thing in the morning, and I'll be doing the same there. And then on Thursday I'll head off to Rome for Thursday and Friday before I head back. So yeah, I'm going off to show you in real time what's going on, and I'll be, you know, posting some videos on the squares and the museums in real time. What's really going on. Because really, you know, when you watch the news, you feel like the whole world is collapsing and we're the only people, you know, doing sensible things. Actually, it's better for me to go and show you what's really going on, and you can make your own decision.
I was going to say thank you to all of you again for joining us. If you want to see any of Hisham's videos, they are all on our Facebook page, Eton Leisure Facebook page. Hisham, thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
It's been brilliant talking with you, and so interesting. And I just have to say, stay safe, everyone, and I hope to help you with your travel bookings soon.